Today on the Space Industry website, they have a patch that came out in under 24 hours by about a half hour. We're on PTU 3.14Q now, Q, which is on the left side of your screen. And on your right is the patch that came out just before. This was the P patch. So if you recall, I had some content that was from the O patch that literally while I was rendering, the P patch came out. So now we're on to uh, Q, and it's starting to become one of those things where it makes it easier for me to just have them next to each other and compare and contrast recent patches without having to worry too much about exacs and whatnot of the scaling. The point is you're going to get the information that you critically need to make your decisions about the game and understand where 314 is going. So without further ado, same deal as before. If you are having any issues at all with your character in the game, or it's stuck somewhere and your backspace is not functioning, the first thing you want to do is go into that PTU folder and delete your user account, your user folder. And to be clear, I'm not talking about live. You would never delete your user account, your user folder from live. You would delete it from the PTU folder. Remember, if you go into the loader in the top right corner, there's the third tab to the right. In the top right corner, you can bring that up and it'll give you your file path. So if it isn't C, program files, Space Industry / Star Citizen, but these parts are usually the same, /Star Citizen / PTU. PTU is the file we're talking about. So, it's the user folder or, the other folders you'll hear people say, oh, just delete that and let it reinstall it. That's where they're talking about, not your live files. Leave your live files alone. Same deal as before. If you starting just in this PTU, which is open to all backers, so all three waves are in here, you would have 15 million UEC. If you had it before, you'll have whatever you had left if you spent whatever you spent. It's quite a lot of in-game resources, especially when they have all ships available except for RSI ships to anyone, no matter what ships you own, as long as you're a backer. Testing focus is still the same things. I am not going to go over the whole list, but the gist is Orison, Taurus, surrender, and the ping system, radar scanning and ping that we've covered. We just had a test let yesterday with the Hornet Ghost. I was showing you a bit of the IR and the EM changes and about how those are going to be major factors and how the HUD reflects that. So let's take a look at the known issues list. You're still seeing that some players have reported they are unable to select the system. However, it looks like may require an account recopy as well as logging fully out of the launcher and logging back in and possibly deleting the user folder. Looks like the same discussion, same deal. Deleting that user folder, as we talked about where the file pathway is what they want you to do. Players may experience an infinite load when rejoining the PU after a bed logout. This is once again, unfortunately, something that came up and cropped up in the last patch. It's continued into patch Q. It is amazing that we're at Q now. By the way, a fun fact, if we go into Z, the next one will be AA. So they do have a contingency for these patches should they go that far, but I'll explain at the end of this video why I don't think we're going to get to that point. So just remember not to use a bed logout system just for your own sanity, and it's unfortunate, but that's how it is. So use the nearest station and land there if you want to stay in a specific area, and try to store your ship if you have enough time. I know folks have different play styles and time periods that they have to play, so that can add, another 10 minutes to your logout experience, unfortunately, but it might save you a lot of effort when you log back in, especially if you have this very specific ship that you like working with. Legally landed ships are irregularly being treated as blocking flight zones and impounded. That's a new issue on this list from Q. I will say that this has been something that propped up a couple times. I've personally paid that dang fee probably 5 or 6 times over the years. Not in 314 yet, but over the years, I've had this illegally blocking flight zones and impoundment issue. And then if you've never experienced it yet, impounding is actually not that bad right now. You have the ship get taken, basically it's stored away. You have to pay a fee at the ASOP terminal, and then you get it back. The fee is usually very, very small. I don't know if it scales with the size of ship. It's that infrequent because I play a lot and I rarely ever see it happen. But it is something that came back for the 3.14Q, and it's a big enough issue where they're listing it as a known issue. Editing PMA is still here, so they have a problem with when you change your mobiGlas case, preventing mobiGlas functionality. So if you're visiting New Babbage, no matter how cool the Microtech factory store, factory line looks, don't buy a different Microtech case, just for now. Unfortunately, it is stopping mobiGlasses from functioning. Missiles are still beating them flares. The flares are useless against them, unfortunately. And ships are not fully repairing / refueling in the VMS system. So the vehicle management system on your mobiGlas, like we've talked about many times already, is still not functioning fully. Repair and refuel are going to become more and more critical, but for right now, they're still a problem. So, they've tuned the Aurora's power system, which is, I guess, good for the new player experience. But for anybody who is kind of, I'd assume that most people listening and watching are, you spent a little bit of time in Star Citizen over the years, or you're just coming back, or you're a player that's come from ED or any other sim games, and you understand that like the smallest ship is usually not going to be the most feature packed, and even the really nice small ships are not going to be starter ships. Because there is a few that are really cool, but the Aurora is one of those creatures where it was envisioned to be the starter ship, but unfortunately it has been eclipsed so much so that it really doesn't hit like that bare minimum of what a starter ship really needs to be. The Aurora LN was an attempt at making a ship that went, as long as it still has its missiles until it expends those, it's actually got a little bit of teeth to it. And the Aurora series can haul boxes, sort of. It's an interesting dynamic for the Aurora, where it's going to be at, and it does have a bed. Not all ships have beds. So the Aurora, my first ship being the Aurora LX, I'm speaking from the heart here, I don't see the place for the Aurora. I would suggest, if you're talking to somebody who's starting out in this game, to avoid the Aurora if at all possible. At least get them in an Avenger, preferably even a Pisces. I prefer the Pisces over the Avenger, but that's just my personal opinion. They're both great ships, and if they're really, really excited, like, hey, what can last me years of gameplay, I would honestly push them towards something like a Nomad, because that pickup truck of the skies can do so much. You would be shocked at how many things I've pulled off with the Nomad. So, anyway, back to topic. The Aurora power tuning is good. It's good to see the new player experience, especially if we have players that have old school starter packages that just have an Aurora, or they had that referral Aurora, like it's their secondary ship, like the Aurora ES, I think it's called, which is like the Clipper line one, I think. It's good to see that they're fixing up the Aurora, and it's going to be reflected well in the new patch with the capacitor gameplay / power management V2 that the capacitors fall under. It's just, I hope they're not spending too much time on the Aurora. I hope that's not too big of an ask. So let's take a look at bug fixes. So we're seeing that players should no longer experience the 30,009 error when loading into the PTU. That's great, because this was 2 patches ago was a major problem where they got this nasty 30,009 error and people were crashing out constantly. But only certain folks. From what I was talking with, a lot of people were like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And I've talked to other people that have, 2 people in general, that have been saying, I genuinely could not get into the game for 40 minutes straight trying because of this damn error, off and on. In one person's case, the other person tried I think they tried logging in, it crashed. They tried a few minutes later after fiddling with some stuff, and it still crashed again. So, I mean, we're talking about these extended issues where everything got restarted on the game side, and the client side, and still had an issue. So, I don't know. I'm glad to see it's gone. Hopefully it stays gone. Fixed an issue causing turrets to not be able to pitch up and down in ships. Always good. Turret gameplay isn't going to be important. And I think all the Hurricane pilots out there and newly minted Hurricane turret gunners who are really loving those ships right now are going to be appreciative of any turret improvements. Players should no longer QT through planets when spline jumping. Self-explanatory. Glad to see it. Obscurers should matter. you should have to go around a planet and obviously not have to suffer any issues. I personally had an issue where I QT'd to a planet and it put me into the planet. I don't know if that's the same deal. I don't remember if it was a direct QT in or if it was like I want an angle. I can't remember. Like, one of those where you're skimming the surface of the planet and then the ship spins around to the correct rotation. I can't remember if it was one of those or it was pointed almost straight in. But it could have been impacted by that. Who knows? Anyway, I had the backspace out of that. Fixed an issue causing Star Marine matches not to end when max point have been reached. Good. MedPen should no longer show up twice in Star Marine loadout customization. Also good. So it looks like they're tuning up Star Marine. I kind of have a pet opinion. You can take this what you will. That Star Marine is one of the things they're quietly testing a lot of the FPS gameplay, both for Star Citizen PU and also for the future Theaters of War. So them improving Star Marine is win-win for us. Everybody, the small community that is big in Star Marine, that enjoys Star Marine, they get the benefit there. And also, I think that we're learning a lot of lessons for future gameplay in Theaters of War, and by extension, the PU is being benefited by more people playing Star Marine, and hopefully in the future Theaters of War, as a combined arms game, which is really what Star Citizen needs to be. We need to test that combined arms aspect. Space, ground, technically air through spacecraft, and also soldiers on the ground, foot soldiers. So all these different people need to be able to interact with each other, and we need to be able to test those things a lot. It looks like they fixed another server crash. The back-end service stability fixes. I mentioned this before, but I really wish they'd go slightly more into detail on the technical side. I promise, CIG, we won't roast you if you just tell us a little bit more, just a little bit more about the technical stuff. It would be nice to be able to look at this and know, hey, it was a major client crash or a server crash, etc. In fact, my eyes were so used to seeing that. If you look at the other patch notes and the previous patches before these, by the way, I misread that. It looks like it's a fixed one client crash, not fixed one server crash, because most of the time it just says server crash. That's how little the technical changes between patches. I'm glad to see another client crash fix. I think it's that one, probably the 3009 error, if I was to guess, because that seems like a localized error on the client side. But I can't tell you for certain because there's no mention here. Just a slight couple more words on this line is all I'm asking for. Promise we won't roast you. We won't get super technical on you, or most of us. Just give us a little bit more. Give us what you're working towards, because you've earned it. You've done all the hard work. It's time for you to enjoy it. Off screen, I'm going to mention a very short mention of the Roadmap Roundup for those posts I posted today on July 28th, 2021. And it has 3 things on it. Proximity mines have been added to the progress tracker as a deliverable, and they're tracking them now. So that's going to be proximity mines that are tracked when explosives have been defined area. Explosives that have a defined area trigger zone. When someone or something enters that zone, the trigger is tripped and the mine explodes. Second, male specialist heavy RRS armor, creating an RRS specialist heavy armor set, including its material variants. Now, I have already seen some comments about this. I do not believe that they're going to release an armor set just for men. Please, just have a little bit of faith. It doesn't hurt to put up some comments and suggestions on this progress tracker, which is, I'm going to have a link to the Roadmap Roundup as well as the latest patch below in the description. But just don't roast them, okay? I strongly suspect that they will. All of Star Citizen has been this way, where they've built out the male side of it and then they built out the female side. If they can do both at the same time, they do. But it seems like that seems to be the pattern for development. So if we're seeing male specialist heavy RRS armor now, we'll probably see the female side of it very, very soon afterwards. I think the team just has more experience with the male side of it, and they have been making great strides to build out the female side of the armor sets. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. I have some concept picture of it, but I can't confirm it wasn't a subscriber material. So I have to try to confirm it is an official picture, but I don't know if it's subscriber picture for the concept, unfortunately. And they didn't put one in this post, which is very frustrating to me, to say the least. And finally, hacking tech. I'm going to try to bring over this thread, actually, just for the heck of it. If I've been having issues with the screen not grabbing the correct window, even though I'm recording the entire screen. You figure that out. But so if you can see it, great. If not, I apologize. But this is all we got from them. This picture here is not the RRS armor set. It's very heavy. It almost looks like it's designed for guards, like at a location, or people standing guard outside the UEE, big station or something. It's really what it looks like to me, from the picture I saw. Finally, the release view has hacking technology got pushed back. Repeat, pushed back. So this is something we were expecting in 3.15. Now it's going to quarter 4, 3.16. And I want to read it exactly the way they wrote it, just to give them a fair thing here. Development on hacking is continuing to make good progress. After a round of internal feedback, we've made the decision to spend some additional time in this feature in order to release it in a more polished state. For this reason, this card has been moved to quarter 4, 3.16. So I want to remind everyone that 3.15 was huge. I wasn't joking when I compared 3.14 and what I suspect will be 3.14.1 or micro patches for 3.14, like new builds for it, to be like the scaffolding to build 3.15. Honestly, I expected this. Not hacking. I mean, I didn't know what it was going to be, but privately I've been talking with some of my org mates, and I was saying that they're going to have to pick their battles for 3.15. It's ridiculous. I mean, the entire healing loop is being released in that. A tier 0 healing medical gun, that's the Cure Life medical gun. They're going to have, the multi-tool will also have this lower level healing mechanism. They'll still have med pens, but they only work certain ways. They're talking about mixing drugs and other things that will allow you to boost somebody up so you can heal their leg, for example, with adrenaline shot so they can get back to their ship safely and you guys can fight your way out of the cave or something and then get proper treatment. And they're talking about releasing every single, at least the basic hospitals. There's a lot. There's a lot in there. So I'm going to actually make this video a little longer than I expected. Give me just a moment. Okay, so on the progress tracker, which you can find at the Robber Space Industries homepage, then you would go to development, which is one of the 4 tabs, and then you would hit progress tracker. By the way, do not adjust your screen. Do not want to go through that process of freezing us out when I go to click that, and then I would go over here. So trying to keep as little of that frozen screen stuff as possible. So what we're looking at here is the tech that is coming in. So it should be, here we go. Weapon charge and drain, player slide, prone, where more is the hacking? Here it is. So here's our tentative, and remember, it's just tentative. It's not locked in yet, which they'll lock in closer to 3.16, but there's where hacking ended up. Hacking was over in 3.15. And as I've talked about, there's a lot here. So 3.15 has a lot of, let's look at this, implementing radar and scanning for players on foot, a big part of planetary interaction. So planetary outpost, planetary interaction, moon gameplay and planet gameplay, also just for mining and cave exploring and things like that. More and more is going to be on foot. And also for theaters of war, you're going to have a lot of time when you're on foot. All those things are going to be important. I can't help but think of the Expanse series when they visualized it in the show. It was really cool seeing Draper's HUD, Bobby Draper's HUD, where she's like literally got the armored suit on, and you can actually see everything that they add to that. It was nice touches like that. You don't picture it that well in the books, but like when you see it in action on a combat show, it's pretty action packed show. It's pretty cool. Personal inventories in 3.15, which is going to be a major cluster for a lot of folks. And what do you mean I can't bring the kitchen sink or 99,000 med pens along with me? Healing tier 0, where you can heal other friends. And as I this usually says, I think it's NPCs and players can heal each other. We'll see how that goes. Bombs, so this will allow for the A2, and you'll see more about that in a minute. NPC healing enables players to heal other players and NPCs. And the legendary Redeemer, multiple people have asked about the Redeemer. It's still on 3.15, tentatively. The Crusader A2 Herc, which is the bomber, which has an incredible amount of turrets on the bottom of it as well. It's compared to a turtle. All the firepower is almost all the firepower is on the bottom of the ship alongside the bomb loads. It's going to be truly an amazing ship for those type of things. It's going to be in a little early because planetary outposts are not in yet, but this thing is going to be truly a fearsome creature. And speaking of fearsome creatures, you have the Ion and the Inferno, the sister ships that are the Ares series from Crusader as well, coming in on 3.15. This is a very action-packed, I mean, just alone, the mini Hammerhead, aka the Aegis Redeemer. You've got the A2, a true firepower on the one side, really can hammer the hell out of a moon or a planet or an asteroid or anything like that, where it has a focused direction it can fire at. And then the Ares series with their huge guns on board, their single, big gun. And the whole ship is built around that bespoke weapon system. Very exciting stuff. Also, to support the healing, as I talked about earlier, you have the multi-tool healing attachment for the Grey Cat Pyro Multi. The Grey Cat multi-tool will have a healing attachment. The Cure Life Medical Tool is the more advanced version of this, where they explain basically the multi-tool will allow you to heal better than a med pen, but it's still just going to give you health points, just more. And it'll also let you right-click scan, where you can view what is wrong with the person. So you can maybe try to figure out some type of acute treatment that you can quickly do. Like say, oh, you have a broken leg, so I'm going to inject adrenaline into you. And down the road, they're going to have that type of gameplay where I'll inject the correct thing into you. Oh, you're poisoned. Oh, you broke your leg. So let me give you this drug to get you back on your feet so we can get back to the ship, without having to carry you the whole way. That type of gameplay. So that's really what the multi-tool is going to be useful for. And then the actual Cure Life Medical Tool is a step above the multi-tool, and this thing is a dedicated healing gun. There's a tremendous difference, though, because with the multi-tool, you'll be able to carry a mining attachment, a cutting attachment, the now healing attachment, the tractor beam. Holy cow, the tractor beam. All these different attachments, they look like a pack of cards, the size of them, or maybe 2 packs of cards stacked on top of each other. So they're very small, so they're not going to take up a lot of your inventory space to be able to have all sorts of utility out of this one device. Whereas the medical tool is going to be for the dedicated medic, someone who is going to sacrifice some of the utility of the Grey Cat multi-tool, or down the road you might have to. I think right now there's 2 utility slots. So in theory, you could have a Grey Cat multi-tool rigged up with whatever attachment you think is most useful at the moment, and then also the medical tool itself, the Cure Life medical tool. So down the road, though, I don't think that's going to be possible. I don't know if you're going to have to sacrifice some things in order to make other things fit. So maybe you'll lose your pistol slot and you can use a second tool, or maybe you'll have to rig this on your back. We don't know the size of this medical tool either. Some of these tools look small, but then you look at the secondary renderings or concepts and they're bigger than what they really look like in here. Like this. I think I've seen pictures where this thing looks like the size of an SMG. So we'll see. We'll see where this lines up. I think it's going to be a bit bigger than the multi-tool, but we'll see. The Bearing Size 7 laser cannon. This is the bespoke weapon for the new Ares series. And then the ballistic Gatling is the one for the Inferno. This is the one for the Ion, the laser. So I've already had people pointing out that like they really should allow the Ares to switch because there is some other differences, and especially with the Ion losing a shield, they were pointing out like why can't we just switch the weapons, and have like all that. I think there's a lot of internals with the bespoke weapon system, but honestly I don't see why they couldn't, if they really 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 wanted you to be able to do that. So I'm just going to leave it there. I don't think it's going to be plausible, especially in 3.15, but who knows down the road. Interior OC streaming. Cool. I'm glad to see it. I hope it stays here. This is a really cool tech. This is one of those one more thing we need to have our ducks in a row on in order to have proper servers that have a lot bigger ships and also fleets of ships that aren't crashing each other and things like that. So from a technical standpoint, this is very important. So this is what I mean by 3.15 is a pretty very very active between the personal inventory system and those health changes, and these ships, all these ships being added. There's four heavy hitters here that are going to have to be heavily balanced out to figure out where they fall in the lineup. I mean, you can't have A2s dropping Moab bombs every minute on PO or something. I don't think you could. You have a certain amount of loadout, and there is a cost to the device. But still, the point stands. Like they're going to, and how does that work? Can it throw a bomb through space? I don't know. We'll find out. I can't wait to test it. I have a A2 CCU sitting idle, so I'm looking forward to playing with it. And then 3.16 is also exciting for other reasons. Weapon charge and drain tech. That's part of that whole ammunition push where they want to be able to let you change out magazines, combine magazines that have short amount of ammunition. Same deal with energy stuff. And also, this is going to be a really interesting thing for tools that suddenly will have to have, reloads and such. You can see right here, Orison V2, adding more shops and services to the Orison landing zone, which is great, especially when Orison's going to be very popular. Still waiting to find out if we can dock javelins and hull DEs down the line at Orison. I stand by what I say. That would certainly differentiate this high altitude location that's made to build capitals. Would certainly be cool to see those massive, the largest size capitals that players can possess be able to dock there. That would certainly change the game and make it a major point for organizations. Salvage tech, tier 0. This is, once again, a major tech. One of the reasons salvage is important is because repairs are tied to salvage in some way. The developers have hinted at that a couple times now, and they've made it crystal clear that until salvage comes in, actualizing every piece of a ship is not going to be very practical. Apparently, repair, salvage, they're like the yin and the yang, and they both have to work together. So tier 0 salvage combined will make it closer to having repair tool that you can actually use on each piece of your ship. And that's just, once again, opening the door. And then they're going to have servers that are more capable of doing meshing and have that entity graphing system where it's constantly logging all the little pieces of your ship and streaming them in and out. Speaking of that, OC streaming, the interiors of ships, all those different things are going to have to come into concert together and play the same tune. So this is just one more piece that's blocking. Why can't I just go and grab out my multi-tool and go weld my ship back together and fix it back up? Or salvage some other ship that blew up, So there's a lot of technology there. Once again, hacking is going to come into its own in 3.16. Most of it's already done. They're polish passing it, as they said. I have no reason not to have faith in that. 0G push-pull, very cool. The Musk Hull C, Misk Hull C. This was one that was a major problem for haulers. The Misk Hull C being pushed back to 3.16 so they could work on the Hull B, if I'm not mistaken, was a big argument for and against like the new player experience and getting people into hauling, because the Hull C is one of the most common ships in the game, at least in the lore for NPCs. They said the Hull C is you'll see thousands of these things flying around the systems, across all the systems, and NPCs alone, not even counting players. And this thing can haul a lot. So I'm very curious to see if it'll keep all of its SCU. It may take a little bit of a haircut on its SCU, but I suspect it'll come in 3.16. Ship shield emitters. These things are very important. People will be able to shoot those emitters to disable your shields on one side of your ship. So these are critical, and this will create a new type of pinpoint precision gameplay. Devs constantly are talking about time to disable being added. Gray Cat multi-tool salvage attachment. This is important as we talk about with salvaging tier 0 coming in. We'll eventually be able to see both ship salvage technology, drone salvage technology, and multi-tool salvage technology. And I'm guessing a better, higher-end salvage equipment for personal handheld use. Just like we have that healing multi-tool and other tractor beam multi-tool they said already. Tractor beam tier 2 tool already that they're working on that they haven't released yet. So I suspect we'll have a salvage tier 2, like above the multi-tool. That's a dedicated salvage tech tool. Dynamic door alignment for vehicles. Very cool. I think this is good. We already talked before about the trolleys having too small of wheels, and that was a thing that they learned for the 3.13 retrospective we saw just a few days ago, discussed by the devs. So this is the other side of that coin. Having the doors be able to align correctly to put vehicles on and off of ships is critical for ship doors and elevators. And yeah, dynamic alignment. I'm guessing when it hits the ground, it'll push the ground out of the way or something just to make the ground stable for these vehicles to safely get on and off. I don't know. I'm just speculating on that. And this is pretty cool. Origin M50 engine swapping, enabling the Origin M50's bespoke engine to be swapped. Cool. And I think that's great for competitive gameplay. For folks that are playing racing inside things. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't really done much racing or anything because it's not that common. I know they added that course to, I think it was Grim Hex. I haven't even done it once. So I hope that the folks that are into racing, down the road, you'll be able to get more content and we'll see where that goes. But this is kind of where we're at. So that's like the state of, this accidentally became the state of 3.15 and 3.16. And then if we go into the progress tracker, when you see the, if you click on the link below, when you go into this roadmap roundup for today, when they say, oh, go over the progress tracker, what they're talking about is you go to deliverables and then I do not know why it's not showing me the names. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go to another browser because apparently the actual browser that is used by RSI itself in their loader is not functioning with Progress Tracker, which I've had this problem in the past. I don't know why I forgot it, but it's, yeah. Give me 1 second. So this will round it out. So if you're using the in-game browser from the loader, do not. If you need to use if you want to view the Progress Tracker. But I am using, I think it's Brave in this situation, and it should still be showing on your screen what I'm seeing. Implementing proximity mines in the game, and they have the same quote. I mean, it might be word for word on what exactly I'm reading on the other screen, what they put in the roadmap roundup. But 2 teams are on this. What you see, the weapon content team is going to come in late. The EU PU feature team is going to come in first. For a reminder, the PU team is actually rather small at CIG. The largest group of teams is devoted to Squadron 42. And one of the things that a few of us have argued is that once Squadron 42 Part 1 is released, hopefully there'll be a big push to get the PU snapped into shape and get some real, blitz it really hard for at least, 6 months or something like that. So after, they get Squadron out the door, they support it through the whatever, its launch phase. And then right after that, get over to the PU and really crack at it for a while. Because, they may have over 700 employees, I think Chris and Sandy said, but a lot of them are devoted to Squadron 42. And if you see these logos in the progress tracker, that means that it's both working for Squadron 42 and for Star Citizen. So to be fair, there is a lot of crossover. But if you're devoted to Squadron 42, and that's what your goals and objectives are to complete, your primary goal is to make an amazing Squadron 42 game. The PU is your secondary goal. You're not going to do as much for the PU. It's that simple. Other people will have to come up behind you and be like, hey, remember the PU, don't forget the PU. because your priority is not the PU. It's to get this dang Squadron 42 out the door in a polished way, and it's going to look great and everything else. So just a thought. Here is the male specialist heavy armor. This is the one mentioned in the roadmap roundup today. There's also a male specialist light RSS armor that's already in progress by the same team that's going to do the heavy armor. So that's pretty cool. It's the same deal. They copy and pasted the roadmap roundup into the roadmap roundup, the same thing basically. What's listed here. And what's interesting is it should only take them 4 weeks to do. I'm betting a lot of the technology that they developed for 24 weeks for this modular light armor set aimed for both for stealth specialization was probably dragged over here. So creating a specialist heavy armor set, including its material variants, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the tech that went into this RRS light armor went into this heavy RRS armor. But I can't say for certain. I'm just speculating. And that is by the character, art, and tech team. And that's straight up for Star Citizen, not for Squadron 42 as well. Just Star Citizen. So that'll leave it for today. I would say that there's a lot of exciting stuff on the horizon. 3.14 is exciting. You've got Orison. You've got Crusader in general. You have the HUDs that have been worked on. You do have the Taurus, which is great. Don't get me wrong, and that improved HUD across the board for all ships. I would say I really don't care too much about. I'll be honest with you, the clouds, as long as they're not horrendous, as long as they don't sap my computer down, I'm happy. But I know everybody's different and how they feel. I'm glad to see missile work going into 3Y14. This is a big one, power management. I wish they just left it named as capacitors, but they didn't, so we'll work with what we got. I'm more excited about 3.15, 3.16 because of all the different things that are brought in, but nevertheless, I'm glad to see a more fleshed out Stanton. I'm glad to see more exciting stuff over here, and even the volumetric clouds, for example, I just kind of said, oh, I don't care, but honestly, they are exciting because of the pressure differential calculations they have. So that's going to open the door for deep water type technologies, and it also opens the door for other pressure variation areas. By having Crusader as a living, breathing place, other gas giants will exist, and also, once again, water-based planets and other places that have deeper water areas will have that capability opened up, hopefully down the line. The devs have already said that this technology works in any place where the pressure changes, and they specifically said underwater should not be an issue once they have some time to really think about it and work on it. So that's all I got for today. Sorry, it's kind of a mixed bag, isn't it? I think do bear in mind that when a patch has very light notes like 3.14.p and it's 3.14p and it's being rolled out in under 24 hours from the previous patch, it can mean one of two things. It can mean we're very close to 3.14 live, which I believe is the case, or they are rolling out these patches so fast because they are trying to hammer out a lot of issues that are these gremlins that are underneath the hood, and they're trying to basically use the PTU testers as this constantly changing group of folks at any given moment that they can use as like the test bed for those desync fixes. I think it's maybe even a combination of those two things, but I'm leaning towards the first one being the priority there. I would suspect that there's only a couple days left in July. Chris Roberts wanted it out mid-July. We've seen it push back a week because of the desync issues. They did the test they needed to do that was supposed to be the weekend before that would have allowed them to still be, quote, mid-July, end quote. Really they were past it, but with last weekend for the Xenothreat testing. I'm hoping they got all the results they needed. Apparently the desync issues are not as bad as they were. I don't see BioWare posting like 50 call to arms action things in the Star Citizen General forum on Spectrum. I think that it is going to be a good patch. I strongly suspect by the end of this week we'll see 3.14 live. And I'm not saying it's going to be tomorrow or make a call. Apparently, I don't want to burn myself again, but if I was CIG, I would strongly be pushing for tomorrow night to push it through, because that would still give me the full staff to be able to focus on fixing it. You know, hold everybody over slightly later, get it out, you know, let's say afternoon, hold everybody over a little bit longer to make sure there's not any urgently bad things that are going on the servers or client side. And then once so to speak, the patient is stabilized, then we all go home for the night, and then we come back in the next day ready for battle, where we really fix any other major pressing things or things that cropped up overnight. And that gives us an entire span of that last day to really kick anything left and start flipping the switches for Xenothreat if that's going to start from the beginning of 3.14, or at least just start flipping those scripts, getting out information, doing Star Citizen Live, covering all the exciting things and hyping up 3.14, getting the players excited and getting everybody enthusiastic about it, pushing out any other information that they've been hiding and keeping quiet about. If they're going to do a surprise vehicle launch, I don't know if it'll be at 3.14. But, you know, somebody pointed out a couple days ago to me, don't forget about the Scorpius. And I was like, oh, yeah, that exists. And it was promised to come out soon, right? So, you know, that could be another example of something that would be rolled out during 3.14 as the surprise ship. I've been looking in other directions, but the Taurus and the Scorpius would be a nice combo, because you'd have a haulers. It's more of a multi-function industrial mid-size ship, and then a combat two-seater that's designed to do multi-role combat. That would be a pretty cool thing, and it would also explain why the Hurricane is so powerful right now. There's so many players right now I've been talking to that have been doing two-person Hurricanes instead of one-person fighter. I can't help but think the Hurricane is influencing or testing the concepts of a Scorpius. I'm not saying they're the same. I'm not saying it's the same ship. I'm not saying you have the same weapons. But it's got a lot of the same technology going on. You've got two players. You've got the turret moves around, sure, but it's still one turret. They have comparable capabilities, although I'm hesitant about that exactly, you know, sticking to one-to-oneing it. But yeah, I have no crystal ball or any secrets or any sources or anything, but I think that would be a pretty good bet if they're going to do a surprise for 3.14 release. That would be a pretty good one. I mean, and no, to answer that one question, if one person reaches out to me on Discord and asks me a question, I assume that there's probably 5 more people that wanted to ask it or didn't bother to, but they would like to know that information. I don't think the Raylan's coming out. I'm sorry. I don't think the Raylan's coming out in 3.14. I think 3.15 would be a great example of when the Raylan would get released, or 3.14.1, you know, is a possibility too. But even that, both of those are kind of pushing it. I would not be surprised if the Raylan makes it to the end of the year, into the early next year to really get done. And yes, I'm sure if I go into this progress tracker, there's probably a Raylan in there somewhere, but I am not. I'm lacking the energy, which is a sign I should probably wrap this up. This has been kind of like an overtime discussion, like we've been doing on a lot of these videos lately. Oh, and one other thing, for those that have been this dedicated to stick around for these discussions, one small channel note. I am now going to add chapters to every single video I possibly can. It takes a little bit extra work for me to dig out those chapters and get the time points, but I've worked through a workflow for that. I figured out the process, and I'm very happy that the way this wonderful host can handle this pretty simply once I dig out the chapter times and format them in the exact way it wants them. So do expect those chapter times, and let me know what you think of that. If the chapters are helping you out, if there's too many of them in some of these videos, I try to I'll steal CIG's comment. I want you to experience the video and not know exactly what's coming up. So I'm going to try to drop hints and only have a few chapters, not overwhelm you with like 50 chapters and here's when we walk down the hallway. Here's when I open the, like I'm not going to do that to you. But I hope that the chapters help folks that have less time or are trying to get exact information right now, or just aren't that interested in a specific topic, at least, especially with these discussion videos where there's multiple things I'm throwing at you, and it may not be for everybody the entire video, but there's a lot of good content in there. So anything I can do to make folks get more out of these is always welcome, and I try to do my best to get those. And as always, please keep giving me the feedback. Keep giving me the feedback. I am gonna obligatory ask for like, comments, and subscribe. Especially right now, I'm pushing for subscribers. There's something big coming up. So if you haven't already subscribed and at least dropped a comment on a single video, I suggest you do so. Preferably one that has a lot of something clever about it. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm still formulating exactly what I'm going to be doing for a project, and you'll all get a kick out of it. I guarantee we're going to have some fun with this. But I highly suggest that if you haven't already, once again, subscribe and preferably drop a comment on any video you see fit. And if you, this is not my attempt to like get extra anything. You can put a comment on older videos that you liked or something like that if you don't want to. So it's not me stumping for comments just to get boosted up on the algorithm or something. Okay, I'm just trust me on this. I wish y'all a great day and fly safe.